Coming up on this Tuesday edition of Daybreak, during Monday's parliamentary audit, the prosecutor formerly in charge of a probe into the spy agency's presidential election meddling and his boss clash over their testimony. The former probe head claims there was external political pressure. Paris strongly protests after a French daily reported Washington has been collecting massive amounts of phone data and records by spying on French citizens. The French foreign minister calls the activity unacceptable. Plus, citing a lack of storage for contaminated water, authorities in Japan say the radiation cleanup of areas surrounding the crippled Fukushima plant will have to be extended by up to 3 years. Daybreak begins now.
You're watching Daybreak on Tuesday, October 22nd, and I'm Choi Yusan in Seoul. Some are calling it an act of disobedience, others are calling it an internal strife within the prosecution. But whatever the case is, there was a clear discrepancy between the former head of the prosecution's probe into the spy agency's 2012 presidential election meddling, Yoon Seok-yeol, and his boss, Cho Young-gon, in their account of the investigation at Monday's parliamentary audit.
The superiors are supposed to help the investigation move forward, but they kept nitpicking at smaller details. I know that is necessary, but if the people who are investigating the case feel it wasn't fair and crossed the line, then we can only regard it as external political pressure.
Important things are meant to be reported to the superiors. It's not to please or meet their needs. It's always to make all the reporting procedures accurate.
And this clash over testimony also led the ruling and opposition parties go up against each other. The ruling Saenuri party said it was a complete act of disobedience by Yoon, while the main opposition Democratic Party said it was a case of the prosecution's high-level officers trying to water down the allegations against the National Intelligence Service. Reacting to public concerns about inaccurate information in educational material, the government says it has started screening and correcting erroneous information found in Korean history textbooks. Education Ministry officials say they have advised 8 publishers of Korean history texts to either correct or complement some 830 statements that are inaccurate, unbalanced, or could distort students' national identity. The listed publishers have been told to submit corrected drafts to the ministry by next Friday. There has been a public outcry in recent weeks to news that some of the nation's history texts contain pro-Japan statements and inaccurate information. Speaking at a ceremony marking the nation's 68th Police Day, President Park Geun-hye has called on the nation's law enforcement to root out what she called 4 social evils for the safety and happiness of the public. The president asked police officers to respond more proactively to illegal acts that go against social discipline and safety. She also emphasized the importance of preventing new types of crime, especially phone frauds such as voice phishing and smishing.
서민의 삶을 위협하는 신종 범죄들을 예방할 수 있도록 과학적 치안 기법을 더욱 발전시켜 나가야 합니다.
President Park also reaffirmed her campaign pledge to increase the number of police officers to 20,000 over her 5-year term in office. The Korean government hopes to do more for women next year by adding programs to boost gender equality and improve conditions for women at work and at home. According to a budget submitted by the Finance Ministry to Parliament for approval, the government is seeking to spend 22.4 trillion won, or roughly $21 billion on gender equality next year. This is an increase of almost 70% from the $12.5 billion allocated for this year. Under the plan, more than $2.9 billion will be spent on childcare programs, a jump of nearly 20% from this year, and almost $30 million will be used for prevention of sexual violence against women. With rising life expectancy rates here in Korea, you might think most Koreans were looking forward to long and comfortable retirements. But a recent report paints a vastly different picture for the elderly, who are far less happy than the nation's young people. Our Paul Yee reports.
A quick survey of people here at this busy transit station in Korea shows that most believe life is treating them well.
Yes, I got married and also got a new job. Life's pretty good.
Yes, I can say I'm happy. Things are all right in my life.
But just how happy are Koreans these days? A nationwide survey by Hyundai Research Institute conducted earlier this month sought to answer that very question, and 41.5% of the some 1,000 respondents said they were happy. When asked what particular factors contributed to their happiness, a majority of Korean men and women said their interpersonal relationships. Good health and satisfaction with their jobs also made the list. But those results go both ways. Survey takers also found that interpersonal relationships and work-related issues were some of the most stressful factors in life. Economic problems and a lack of leisure time were the top reasons for feeling unhappy. Respondents in their 20s showed to be the happiest age group, with similar figures for those in their 30s, 40s, and 50s. However, the average level of happiness drops sharply for those 60 years and older. The declining trend of happiness with age stands in contrast to most other industrialized countries like Switzerland, where senior citizens are generally the happiest demographic. Researchers say the problem is due in part to sharp cuts in disposable income after retirement.
For those 60 years old and older, the public pension enrollment rate is only 15%. That's a large difference compared to other generations. Coupled with a lack of preparation for older age and the rise in single households, these trends have been lowering the level of happiness.
The survey results show an ever-growing need for a wider social net for elderly Koreans to ensure that the silver generation can feel confident that the best years of their lives are still ahead of them. Paul Yee, Arirang News. If you want the latest news from Korea and around the world,
Return to the negotiation.
President Park Geun-hye planned, given the current circumstances.
on your way to work or at home,
Defense Ministry. The legislature will convene a
tune into Daybreak on Arirang TV.
Prime Minister Shinzo Abe said Tuesday. France summoned the U.S. ambassador on Monday over allegations the U.S. spy agency snooped on French citizens. French daily Le Monde reports the U.S. National Security Agency eavesdropped on over 70 million phone calls in just under a month between December of 2012 and January of 2013. It also reportedly collected tens of thousands of French phone records. The newspaper says the main targets appear to be individuals suspected of terrorism, but French politicians and businesses were also on the list. French Foreign Minister Laurent Fabius said the actions were unacceptable and asked the U.S. government to provide prompt clarifications and justifications for the alleged spying. Prosecutors in Paris launched a preliminary inquiry into the NSA back in July as reports of wide-scale spying was leaked by former NSA contractor Edward Snowden. Japan's Environment Ministry was forced to acknowledge Monday that the decontamination of 6 towns around the stricken Fukushima nuclear plant will have to be extended by up to 3 years. The cleanup was originally due to be complete by next March, but has been pushed back as unexpected complications keep arising. The Fukushima plant has been hit by continuous toxic leaks, with the latest reported on Sunday after heavy rainfall in the nation. The plant's operator TEPCO said the toxic isotope strontium-90 overflowed from containment barriers around water tanks at the plant. The ministry's announcement means more than 90,000 people will be unable to return home until 2017. The sky has turned orange and thick black smoke hangs in the air across a huge area of the Australian state of New South Wales as out-of-control bushfires bear down on Monday. The authorities have issued a state of emergency for the city's western suburbs, and there are fears now that 3 nearby fires could merge. Our Han Da-eun reports.
Firefighters in New South Wales, Australia, who have been working against the clock for days, battling one of the most destructive bushfires ever to hit the nation, say the 3 main blazes are at risk of joining into one fire front. The state's rural fire services told reporters Monday that the state mine fire near Lithgow was at risk of merging with a fire at Mount Victoria. The state has declared a state of emergency as homes have been destroyed or damaged, leaving hundreds homeless, while more than a dozen fires are still reeling out of control. Officials say conditions will worsen this week, peaking on Wednesday with warm weather and strong winds.
Up tomorrow, it's overcast, it's cooler. They shouldn't think that the crisis is over. With the forecast gusts and winds tomorrow, it's every bit as bad as it was over the last couple of days.
The exact cause of the fires across the state remain unclear, but officials say a blaze near Lithgow may have been caused by a military training exercise. Authorities have advised nearby communities to consider evacuating ahead of the worsening weather conditions. 1 man has died so far, reportedly of a heart attack while trying to protect his home. Han Da-eun, Arirang News.
Also on Monday, authorities arrested an 11-year-old boy accused of deliberately lighting 2 fires. A 15-year-old is also being questioned in connection to the fires. And let's now get a check on Reuters for more stories making headlines around the world.
At least 7 people died when an explosion on the track derailed several carriages of a passenger train in western Pakistan. More than a dozen others have been injured in the incident in Balochistan. Police and railway authorities said the explosion was caused by a remote-controlled bomb on the line. The Jafar Express from Quetta to Rawalpindi was caught in the blast. There was no immediate claim of responsibility for the attack on Monday.
Is equal in New Jersey.
Same-sex marriage became legal in the U.S. state of New Jersey just after midnight on Monday.
Do you, Joseph, take Orville to be your lawfully wedded spouse?
Newark Mayor Cory Booker opened City Hall at midnight to perform some of the state's first gay weddings. 7 couples tied the knot.
I declare Joseph and Orville to be lawful spouses in the state of New Jersey.
There were yells at the start of the first ceremony from a lone protester who was removed. Same-sex marriages also got underway in Lambertville and Jersey City.
I, Cory Booker, declare you...
New Jersey is the 14th state to allow same-sex couples to marry, along with the District of Columbia. They became legal after the Supreme Court on Friday rejected a request to put them on hold until an appeal in January.
October has been designated by the Korean government as the month of culture, and venues around the country are finding their own ways to celebrate. Our cultural correspondent Park Ji-won reports.
Here at Culture Station 284, a multidisciplinary space for arts and culture, housed in the old Seoul train station, a group of undergraduate architecture students are installing an exhibition about their field of study.
Regular citizens might feel that architecture is inaccessible to them, so we're aiming to bridge the gap by showing something about the life of an architecture major.
The project is part of a month-long celebration commemorating the Month of Culture in Korea. The government designated October as the Month of Culture and October 19th as the Day of Culture back in 1972. But this year, with the Park Geun-hye administration having declared cultural enrichment as one of its key national goals, the celebration has grown. This month, there are some 1,200 events taking place around the country.
I think it's great that these events are not only for government officials or artists. We citizens can enjoy a variety of events with our families. My family got a chance to perform at one of the events, and we also got to see other people perform.
Also, as part of the celebration, 5 of the most beloved Korean poems, as chosen in an online poll, are being displayed around Gwanghwamun Square through the end of the month in an exhibition co-organized by the Culture Ministry and the Society of Korean Poets. The organizers hope the poems will provide passerby with a moment of relaxation and a bit of inspiration for the rest of their day. Park Ji-won, Arirang News.
And the Korean National Ballet is doing its part to promote Korea as a nation of rich culture. The company is currently showing its own rendition of Giselle, a timeless classic. Our Lee Tae-ho reports.
The Korean National Ballet is the country's oldest ballet company. Boasting some of the best dancers in the country, it has been lauded both at home and abroad for its creativity and virtuosity. The company has also won praise for a targeted marketing campaign aimed at diversifying its viewing audience that has succeeded in creating new ballet fans who might be interested in the National Ballet's current performance right here in Seoul.
Behind me is the rehearsal for the Korean National Ballet's rendition of the classic ballet, Giselle.
The 2-act ballet was first performed in Paris in 1841. The first act tells the story of the lovely maiden Giselle, who has a passion for dance but has a weak heart. Her beauty attracts the attention of a nobleman who becomes enamored with her, and the two fall into an ill-fated romance. As a result, we see the beautiful maiden who was so full of life in Act 1 transform into a sad rat who roams the night in Act 2. Prima ballerina Kim Ji-young speaks of the difficulties in the role of Giselle.
This is a very difficult work to perform because in the first act, you put your whole heart and soul into being this beautiful maiden who dies because of love, and then you have to portray what the character has become in Act 2. It's a mentally and physically draining performance.
The lighting accentuates the contrast in the production, and the sets create a wonderfully beautiful first act that is bursting with energy, and a second act that is pervaded by an atmosphere that is dark and eerie, yet also strangely elegant. The Korean National Ballet's rendition of Giselle runs through Tuesday, October 22nd at the National Theatre of Korea. Lee Tae-ho, Arirang News.
And a good Tuesday morning to you all as we kick things off with some baseball. That's right, we know that the Samsung Lions and the Tucson Bears are going to be facing off in the 2013 Korea Series, but for the LG Twins, what went wrong? They had the Tucson Bears playing the Nexon Heroes till Game 5 and had a couple of extra innings to go with it, but all in all, it was the playoff experience. While the LG Twins were the favorites going into the series, the Tucson Bears seemed to have advanced to the Korea Series a bit too easily. But the difference between the two teams was the defense. The LG Twins committed a total of 8 errors in the series, including 4 in Game 3. Of the 14 runs scored by the Tucson Bears in the series, 6 of them were unearned runs. Meanwhile, the Tucson Bears defense was just short of perfection, especially during Game 3 of the series. And staying in baseball, but over in the majors, it was an up-and-down season for Lee Hyun-jin and the LA Dodgers, who fell short of advancing to the World Series. But according to the LA Times, Lee Hyun-jin should have no problem keeping his role as the number 3 starter. As the offseason begins for the LA Dodgers, who lost to the St. Louis Cardinals during the 2013 National League Championship Series, it's a lot of work to be done as many of the players are set to go free agent this offseason. However, according to the LA Times, Lee Hyun-jin, with this successful rookie season, should be able to keep his role as the number 3 starter, pitching after Clayton Kershaw and Zach Greinke. The South Korean lefty finished off this rookie season at 14-8 with an ERA of 3.00.
And moving over to football, all of us here in the nation love to watch Son Heung-min play, but apparently so do the Bleacher Report. The popular webzine made a list of top 20 best Asian footballers as they named Son Heung-min of Bayer Leverkusen as the second best Asian footballer at the moment. The best Asian footballer went to CSKA Moscow's Daisuke Honda, with many of the Korean footballers being on the list as well. The list includes Koo Ja-chul at number 6, Lee Gun-ho at number 10, Ki Sung-young at number 11, and Park Ji-sung at number 12, just to name a few. And moving on to the 2013 National Sports Festival taking place in Incheon. Some up and down news from the event. Now starting off with the good news, Marine boy Park Tae-hwan wins his third gold medal in swimming after finishing first in the men's 200-meter individual freestyle. Now Park Tae-hwan continues to dominate in the event as he hopes to win 2 more before the end of the event. Meanwhile, moving over, actress-turned-boxer Lee Si-young falls short in the under 51-kilogram division as she loses in decisions in the round of 8. Now, she dislocated her shoulder during the fight and popped it back in herself before finishing the fight. And more from the 2013 National Sports Festival. Gold medalist Yang Hak-sun was sent to the emergency room yesterday after injuring his right ankle during practice. According to several sources, the gymnast can't seem to feel anything in the injured ankle, but the coaching staff hopes it's nothing serious. The 21-year-old was hoping to showcase his new Yang 2 technique for the first time before this injury. Now, I hope he gets well, and that is going to wrap it up for me. This has been SJ. Have a great rest of the day, and see you guys again for your sports needs.
Happy Tuesday morning to you. I'm Lee Ji-hyun with your latest weather forecast. Well, clear, fine autumn weather will persist today, but morning lows have dropped to 10 degrees Celsius this morning here in the capital, which is about 2 degrees lower than yesterday. Well, 2 degrees might not sound like much, but it's definitely cooler than yesterday morning, so please wear a scarf and jacket to your morning commute. But unlike chilly morning, afternoon highs will soar to low 20s in most regions with lots of sunshine across the nation. So notice a big temperature swing, which makes a lot of people get sick easily. In fact, severe cold wave prevails in the country these days, so we gotta take good care of ourselves not to get sick. Now tomorrow we also have mild day in store with temperatures making it to the low 20s just like today. And then another short-lived cold spell will return later in the week and remain throughout the weekend. Or it might not be just a short-lived cold spell. It might stay and dropping temperatures to get closer to early winter. Well, next week we have Halloween. Then it's November. I know, time flies, right? Well, morning lows are a tad cooler than yesterday, but afternoon highs should be similar. So let's take a closer look at those readings. Afternoon highs in Seoul and Busan will get up to 22 degrees Celsius, which is 72 degrees in Fahrenheit. And Daegu and Gwangju will make it to 21 and 23 respectively. So we'll enjoy the nice weather in the afternoon. Let's see how other regions are looking. A daily high in Jeju and Daejeon should be similar, while Dokdo rises to 15 and Mount Kumgang will stay in the cooler side at 8. Now that's all for Korea, and here's the global forecast for viewers around the world. That's all for me at this hour. Enjoy your morning commute and hope you have a wonderful Tuesday. And please join me again for another update at noon.
And those are the stories we have for you this hour. Thank you for watching.